Well, that doesn't look like a very good place to set a cup of water. Hi, my name's Chip. My wife and I have lived in this house for about 5 years, and every day I sit in this chair and I do my emails or read a book or a newspaper. Sometimes I just take a nap here, but I almost always have a drink. A cup of coffee in the morning, soft drink in the afternoon, maybe a glass of water, and I always set it on that window ledge. Now you can imagine in 5 years how many times I've spilt something on the floor here. I even had to touch up the paint on the wall one time. Now I'm sure that my friends that know me would find that amusing because they would know that I have a complete wood shop in my basement, and I've been doing woodworking, building furniture, cabinets, and doing art and wood turning for over 30 years. And you think that I would be able to build something here to be able to put my drink on. Well, I've built a lot of tables, but I've never really built much for myself. And so I thought I would go ahead and tackle a project and build a table for this spot right here. Now the spot's a little challenging. It's only about 16 inches from the edge of the chair to the edge of the window. And it's a V shape, as you can see in the video. So it really doesn't lend itself to any kind of a large size table, nor does it lend itself to a square table, and I certainly wouldn't try to do something triangular to fit in there. But I thought a nice round pedestal style table would look really good in that spot. So I sat down at the CAD/CAM program and spent about an hour just kind of getting some drawings on a piece of paper and some dimensions, and I came up with my plan for a small table to be able to put next to this chair. And this is that table. The table itself is 25 inches high. My cup of water fits on there very well. It's 14 inches in diameter at the top, a little bit less at the bottom. It features a solid wood top, and in this particular example, while the entire table is made of mahogany, you can see that I found a nice figured mahogany with some nice grain detail that I used for the top. And I also have a slightly raised footed base. It's raised about an inch off the floor. It fits in this spot perfectly. It's just the right size, and I'm very happy with the way it came out. In fact, I'm so happy with it, my wife looked at it and said we could really use another one of those to put out in our kitchen. And actually, she didn't want to use it as a table. She wanted to use it as a plant stand. So I'm going to build another one, and I'm going to do a video of that. Now, I'm not doing a video because I'm some kind of super woodworker. I can hold my own, and I'm pretty good at it. Or do I have any better ideas of how to approach something than anyone else? But I've always wanted to try to do a video of one of my woodworking projects, and this seems like a great opportunity. So I appreciate you watching, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's head down to the shop and make some sawdust. Well, welcome to the wood shop. As I said upstairs, we're going to be building a pedestal table today, much like the one that's in the office. That one was built out of mahogany, and the one I'm going to build today is going to be built out of maple. Now I have this nice piece of 8/4 maple, approximately 2 inches thick, that we're going to use for the pedestal part today, and perhaps even use some of the remainder of this board for the tabletop and the base of the table as well. Now I've already cut 24 inches off of this piece of wood I have, so this is the part that we'll be working with today, and I've already ran one side of it over the joiner to make that square so we can go ahead and work off of that. I like to make my pedestals out of multi-glue up when I can. I could go buy a piece of 4" by 4" maple and turn the pedestal out of that one piece. The reason I don't like to do that is I've had problems in the past with a big piece of wood like that, if it hadn't been dried properly, checking up a little bit, not knowing exactly what's inside, and just haven't been successful. I found that the better way for me to do it is to take a single board like this and be able to cut it down the middle, then glue these together, square the blank up, and get the size piece that I need out of it. Now the plans that I have, that I drew up, call for the finished piece of this to be about 2 3/4 to 3 inches The finished pieces in the middle are about 2 3/4, but you remember we're going to take that table from 14-inch diameter to 16, so I'm going to go ahead and scale this up by 25%. That means when I'm done, I need to take these 2 pieces of wood that I'm going to have and glue those together, and I'm going to come up with a board that's about 4 inches thick. By the time I run it across the joiner a few times and get everything nice and flush and ready to glue together, I'll probably be closer to 3.5 inches, and then we'll just trim all that up, and I'll show you what that looks like. Again, the reason I like to use one single board is I think it will continue to hold up for a long period of time, and I know when I cut it, if I fold these back over and kind of book match the ends, the grains are going to line up really well, and it'll look very pleasing when it's turned. So next couple of steps are going to be very simple. We're going to run it across the table saw, and then we're going to take it to the joiner. All right, I have my 2 pieces of maple. I've run them through the table saw, got them cut to the width I wanted them, and then ran across the planer a couple times just to make them nice and smooth, so I get a good glue joint in between here. I've also put a witness mark on the end to make sure that I align these the right way. If you remember, I cut them specifically out of one board so that the grains align. I want to make sure that I maintain that through the glue up. I'm going to use polyurethane glue for this. I'm going to use Gorilla Glue. It's my personal favorite when I'm putting 2 pieces of wood together that I'm going to turn. Yes, this does dry a little dark, and yes, the maple is light, but that's why it's so important that I have that joint fit together nice and snug, because you'll never see that joint line if it's a good, really good tight fit. And I'm going to clamp it up pretty tight because this stuff will expand into the pores of the wood and give me a really good bond. So here we go. Well, that last pass should do it. That was a piece of 600, nice light cut, and this came out really nice. There aren't any scratches left in it, and I think that's going to stain up beautifully and really look good as the column in our pedestal table. So get that off the lathe, and we'll start working on the 3 pieces to consist of the top, the bottom plate, and the apron that goes around there. So that's next. Okay, that finishes the 220 grit sanding for the top of the table. This was a blank that we had glued up earlier. I also have a blank that's been glued up for the skirt, which will hold the top to the pedestal, and I have a blank glued up as well for the bottom of the table. Next step is to get these cut into perfectly round circles, and for that I'll use my bandsaw with a circle cutting jig on it. You can see it set up in the background, so let's go cut some circles. Okay, so that finishes the 3rd circle that we have to cut. So now we've got them all nice and round. Nice edge on it, needs a little sanding yet, so we'll take it over and do some final sanding with it, and we'll also finish the edge with a detail on the router table later. but that's going to be our top. So coming out pretty good. I'm actually considering some kind of an inlay on this top. Haven't really decided what I want to do yet, so maybe a day or so before I actually get to that. But I'd love to put a nice little inlay in there to give it some character, because this is going to sit in our kitchen, and even though it's a plant stand and there'll be a plant on it, I just think it would look a lot better. So not sure what to do yet, but going to do something. I'm not going to leave it plain maple like that. So there's the bottom of our pedestal table. Ran it around the router one time, as you saw, with a 3/4 inch round over bit, and I think it's going to give me a really nice edge on there. So it looks really good, and that piece is finished, and a little bit more sanding on the top, and it'll be ready for assembly. Okay, so here's the table. It's finished. All the parts are complete. We've got the top piece, and that's done for the most part. I'll talk about that in a moment. The skirt or platen that goes on top of the column that we will bolt the top to, the column itself that we turned earlier, and the base. And so those are our 4 parts. Now the only reason I haven't assembled it yet is, as I said earlier, I'm going to try to do something to dress this up a little bit. I want to make it a little more classy. And to do that, I'm going to put an inlay in the very edge of this piece. And the inlay is going to consist of a very simple design, 2 leaves and a stem. I actually went out on the internet, and there's a guy out there, I forget his name, he calls himself the Wood Whisperer. He is very clear that he blatantly goes out and finds designs on the internet and copies them. And since he had used this one, and it's very simple and I really like it, I went ahead and just made a tracing of, printed it off and made a tracing of it, and I'm going to put that into this piece. I think it's going to look really good. And if I put this video out anywhere, I will definitely link that back to his original tutorial of how to do this. Now, I've done inlays before. Most of my inlays I've done have either been straight line or I've used a template system. I have free-handed inlays before, and I'm going to freehand this. I'm going to use 2 different pieces of wood for this. I'm going to use a piece of tulip wood that looks very nice grain to it, nice color. I think that'll look great for the leaves. And then I have a piece of Brazilian rosewood that I'm going to use for the stem portion of it. It's interesting, I was getting ready to pick out 2 pieces of wood, and my wife came down, and these are not the 2 pieces I would have picked out, but I think when you put them together in contrast with the maple, it's going to look really, really good. So, a lot of work to get this done, and I'll show you what the project looks like at the end. Okay, so here's the finished project. 25 inches high, 16 inches at the top, 14 inches at the base. And just came out exactly the way we wanted it to look. I can't wait to see it in situ upstairs in the kitchen, and we're going to take it up there now and take a few photos of it. And there's the finished project. Our table, our plant stand is in the kitchen. It's in situ, really like the way it looks. Came out exactly the way we wanted it to. My woodworking skills are really good, and I'm comfortable with those. Videography skills and photography skills need a lot of work. This was my first attempt. Obviously, we do custom furniture and restoration. If there's a piece that you'd like to commission or talk about, please go ahead and contact me. But for now, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.